Hello and welcome to Give Me the Remote. It's episode 41 and it is... Oh my gosh, what date is it?
It's the 4th of June.
4th of June. I don't have my watch on, sorry. My name is Sheridan.
Yes.
And I'm joined in the pod by Roger, who's a hairless cat that you may have just heard brushing past the microphone. And
John.
Hello, John.
Hello, Sheridan, and hello, listeners. Now, it's a very windy night tonight in Canberra, and so there is going to be some transient background noise as window frames rattle around and the like, for which we apologise. But moving into the content, Sheridan, what have we got?
Let's start off with wine country.
It's an amazing day in wine country.
When was the last time we were all together?
I just want this to feel like a regular vacation. And somewhere in there, I'll just slide into 50. To Rebecca!
Oh, boy. Yep.
So Wine Country is Amy Poehler's first directorial feature film.
Right.
She stars in it, writes it, or co-wrote it, I think. And it's a story of a group of 6 women that go to the Napa Valley for a weekend away to celebrate one of their friends, Rebecca's 50th birthday. Rebecca is played by Rachel Dratch, sorry. And it's got a whole bunch of people that you'd probably expect to see in an Amy Poehler vehicle. So Maya Rudolph, of course, from Bridesmaids.
Maya Rudolph's just moment goes on and on,
It
doesn't
does.
it? Yeah.
Anna Gasteyer, who's from SNL. There's quite a few SNL folks in there.
Mm-hmm.
Devoid of men, except for Jason Schwartzman, who plays, one could only say, the sex symbol in the film, which I don't think that's something he's typically classified as.
He's a very familiar character in this, though, isn't he?
But I guess
A lot of people will know someone just like this guy.
he's a bit of a sort of...
In fact, a lot of people know
hippie.
these characters are... They're quite well drawn, but there's nothing that unconventional in the characters.
No, actually, and to be honest, one of the things I did like about this is it avoids putting the characters into awkward, uncomfortable, somewhat unrealistic, slapsticky kind of scenes of drunkenness, which one does come to expect from these kinds of chick flicks.
Yeah, there are no dead sex workers to be hidden or dead bodies to be carried around or...
It's actually like depicts...
tigers in the backseat of the car, that sort of thing.
It depicts what would be a realistic weekend away for a group of 50-year-old women.
I'm not sure if that's actually a positive or not. I mean, I don't entirely need Hollywood movies to show me my life, and this felt very close to my life.
I felt like when I was watching it that I was just hanging out with some friends that are a bit older than me. Like, I have friends that are in this age group. It's probably, I'm 10 years younger.
Yeah, but I'd say my 40-something friends and even 30-something friends all act this way.
Yeah, but, look, I haven't been on too many girls' nights where we talk a lot about menopause. Haven't quite reached that yet.
Okay,
it's coming for me.
Yeah. All right, so the menopause detail was specific to this age group, but the rest of it was all like, oh, God, I hate my husband. Am I dying of cancer? What am I doing with my life?
What have I done with my life?
What have I done with my life? Was it worth it? And these aren't bad conversations to have. I generally prefer having these conversations myself rather than watching other people have them, I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, it just felt like I was hanging out with some mates, and it's not going to set your world on fire, but if you're having like a lax, probably midweek, and you're a little bit bored, and want something that's reasonably comforting, feel good, quite funny in bits, but not overly ha-ha, you know what you're going to get with this film, and there's an element of it being comforting.
It's entirely pleasant.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like, it's basically a spaghetti night movie.
What's a spaghetti night movie?
Well, it's spaghetti nights when you make spaghetti for the family.
Oh, spaghetti. I thought you meant like KNIGHT.
No. There are no knights of the realm in this at all. No sirs.
Wouldn't you call it a spag bowl night?
You might.
Yeah.
So yeah, the accompanying midweek sort of thing to put on.
Most of the characters, I think, are actually very well drawn. If there's a bit, I think actually the supporting characters are where it lets it down. So Jason Schwartzman's paella making sort of dude bro that's a hippie dude bro.
We know that dude, don't we?
Yeah.
And it happens that
but
way.
It was just a little bit awkward. Like, I didn't really want to see him. I was like, yeah, I can kind of understand why they're banging him. But
You certainly didn't want your friends to have sex with him, yeah.
No. Tina Fey plays this local owner of the Airbnb that
I
they're
felt
staying
she could
at.
have done with either more development or less of her.
I agree. It wasn't formed very well, and it was just seemed a bit... No one that is a character like that looks like Tina Fey.
Well, there are a limited number of people who look like Tina Fey, full stop. But,
She's an attractive older woman, and it just doesn't suit this sort of cowboy, masculine kind of...
Yeah, and there's the thing that the character sort of comes in and tries to be all wiser than everyone and knowing more, but someone who was that wise probably wouldn't be mouthing off.
Yeah, it just felt really clunky.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that funny, so you kind of don't get the reward of it. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, why use Tina Fey at all if you're not going to make it
Seemed
funny?
wholly unnecessary, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give it like a 3.5 star.
I'm going to give it 3 stars.
Yeah, the 3.5 stars of happy, comfortable mediocrity. I would not pay a cent to see this movie, but I would happily chuck it on Netflix.
This is a movie that you want to watch with your mum.
Okay, for our slightly younger listeners, yeah.
Or even us. This is like a non-offensive...
Do you really want to watch this with your mum? Are you going to watch it again to watch it with your mum?
I'm not going to watch it again.
Well, see, you're not going to watch it with your mum, are
Well, I
you?
don't really watch that many movies with my mum, so...
Maybe you should.
Well, I'm not going to watch this one again.
Okay, yeah, okay. Fair enough. So anything else you want to say on this one?
No, I'm done.
So what's next?
Dead to Me.
I'm Judy. Jen, I hope this isn't weird. Can I give you a hug? No. Okay. I lost my fiance 8 weeks ago. It was really sudden. Since Ted died, I haven't been sleeping. Not at all. Hey, I'm up all night. Feel free to call me and we can not sleep together.
Right, the Christina Applegate vehicle.
Yes.
With a Will Ferrell EP credit.
I was very surprised by that. I didn't understand what was Will Ferrell about this at all.
Yeah. Now, I've got to say, this is one that I have been recommending to people at work. I've just been like, have you seen this yet? You've got to see it. And people are really talking about it. And also people are saying, I haven't seen it yet, don't you dare spoil it for me. So, for something that is a relatively low budget, middle brow...
I don't know if it's that low budget.
It's not that high budget either. There's nothing very expensive in this.
There's a lot of... Look, it's as expensive as what Desperate Housewives would have been. I mean, a lot of expenditure would have occurred with the actors, and... You
don't get the big ensemble scenes, though, which can be expensive for sure.
No, that's true. So it's got Christina Applegate, who plays Jen. Her husband has recently died in a hit-and-run accident.
Yeah, it opens with a condolence scene.
And she meets Judy, who's played by Linda Cardellini, at a grief counselling group, and they become friends. Now, it's very difficult to talk any more about this film without giving away spoilers. Series. Without giving away spoilers.
No, but I think we can talk in the abstract, though.
We can.
This is about, and I'm not spoiling it to say, I really am not, a series of unfolding twists that are essentially your perception of events expanding and expanding as the twists are revealed. And it's a very clever piece of writing in that a perspective is presented to you at the start, and then additional perspectives, not very far removed, but just a little bit removed, keep being chipped away, and revealed. And then that casts the events that you know about in very different lights as it progresses. And I think that's the joy of this. For admittedly, it's unrealistic in places, and there's nothing particularly humorous about anything. There's the odd gag, but it's not a comedy vehicle.
Well, it is actually described in promos as being a black comedy, which I found rather interesting because I didn't think... I mean, it's a black comedy to the extent that it's... I mean, I mentioned Desperate Housewives again, It's, to me, very much in that vein.
Yeah, it's no more funny than Desperate Housewives, which I would not describe as funny myself either. But
was described as a black comedy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like Revenge, Big Little Lies, although Big Little Lies is a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
It's in that nature of soapy drama, but with probably more developed, complex characters.
I would say soap's grossly unfair to this because the whole point about soap is that very little happens from episode to episode, whereas this has some pretty severe character arcs. The characters grow as well.
I think there's a lot of soapy elements in this. Every episode basically ends in a cliffhanger, which is designed to make you binge it. It's a very binge-worthy show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we knocked it over in 2 nights, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, kind of there's a lot of twists. There's heaps of twists in it. I think the best twists...
You watch this for the twists.
...happen early in the season.
I disagree. I think some of the best ones came very late, but there's a constant stream of twists.
Yeah. I think it becomes pretty uneven towards the end. There's some real weird... That weird burlesque dancing scene was really odd.
I don't even recall a burlesque dancing scene, so there you go.
And also there's some really, really unbelievable moments in it. I mean, this isn't a spoiler because this happens very early on. Their friendship develops very, very rapidly without any real logic or explanation that I just don't think is very realistic at all. And I know it's not meant to be realistic, but there comes a point when you're like, why would I let that person move into my house with my children?
Yeah, that is a big
Doesn't make
leap.
any
At the
sense.
same time,
there's a few things like that where it doesn't sort of take away from the enjoyment, but you do have to suspend your kind of believability you got to just sort of go, oh, that's a giant plot hole, I'm just going to let it go. Because otherwise you won't enjoy it.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's all sorts of things about police procedure and things that you could look at and go...
Yeah.
But it's a drama, and within its own constraints, it's quite serviceable, and it's a very, very clever piece of writing.
And I think that the main actors, James Marsden plays Linda's ex-husband. I think he plays this amazing character. He's basically like a rich used car salesman. He's kind of sleazy and oily.
Yeah, no, that character is extremely well drawn and
plays it
interesting.
really well.
And it takes a long time, although looking back, there are hints. It takes a long time to figure out what's actually going on with him, and that's fun.
and you kind of like hating him, and then you like him, and then you feel sorry for him, and then you hate him again. Like, that's great, fun character. And the two main, Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini, they're great actors.
I think it's also great for Christina Applegate to have a mature role where she's showing her years as well.
Yeah, she's been doing that for a little while now.
Yeah, but it was still. I mean, this one she's really still doing a dramatic role, which is great to see when she's definitely not a young woman anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for someone who burst onto the stage as a teenage actor playing a very sexualized role.
Well, that was 30 years ago.
It was, but it's nice to see that development and that she's sustaining her career.
I think
as well.
she's done a lot of things since then. So,
yeah. That's still what she's mostly known for.
Maybe. Anyway, it just didn't quite get there for me in the end, this being amazing television, but it's pretty good.
It's pretty good, and they did do the cliffhangers well. It's all very well to say, the cliffhangers were predictable or the cliffhangers were staged, but they were effective cliffhangers.
Yeah, they get you to watch the
you
show.
go, oh my god, I want to know what happens next. Yeah. And it sustained that throughout, what was it, 8 episodes, something like that?
Yeah, it's about 8 or 9 episodes.
Yeah, and again, we're in this space where Netflix seems to really be hitting, which I think I'm feeling it's a good length for drama. It doesn't take all year to watch it, but you get a lot of story, and it's able to tell that longer story and keep the action going. So for me, I mean, I think this is a 4-star effort.
I'm going to give it 3 stars.
Ooh, okay.
That just sort of petered out a bit in the second half, and I just became a little frustrated with some of the glaring plot holes. Yeah, but I think it's actually well worth a watch.
And good fun. Okay.
Okay, what's next?
You
don't know?
No, that's why I ask you that question.
Knock down the house?
If I was a rational person, I would have dropped out of this race a long time ago.
Crowley hasn't had a primary challenger in 14 years.
He's taken $3 million per cycle. He's gonna tell me I'm small, that I'm young, that I'm inexperienced.
Yeah, right, okay. So this is a documentary that's been on Netflix for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
Tracing the journeys of a bunch of women seeking election for the Democratic Party in the
2018
midterms. Yeah, and in particular, the star of the show is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who we will hereafter refer to as AOC because we're not very good with long Hispanic names.
Well, to be fair, I think that's actually what she's pretty much called now by everyone.
yeah. I'm not saying we're Robinson Crusoe on there, but we're just being honest about it. But it's not just about her. I think there's 5 of them.
No, there's 4 of them. So there's Amy Villela, who is from Nevada, who is trying to overthrow healthcare.
Overturn is more normal.
Overhaul the US healthcare system following the death of her daughter, who basically died as a result of the inadequacy of the US healthcare system. She runs
if you
on
don't
that.
have lots of money.
She runs on that platform. There's Cori Bush, who's a woman of colour from Missouri, who's just trying to basically get more women of colour and representation to reflect the demographic of her electorate. I'm having trouble with words. Paula Jean Swearigan. This is such an American-sounding name. Swearigan.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a name you don't have in Australia.
Well, it's a German name, but yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like something that should be in, like, Deadwood. Swearigan.
Well,
anyway.
A very large number of Americans have German ancestry.
Who works in, or who's running in a coal mining state, I think it was Virginia,
West Virginia,
and trying to clean up air pollution in a town. And then, of course, AOC, who's now probably one of the most high-profile politicians in the world, who is a bartender from the Bronx, who runs against, I can't remember the guy, the Democratic, he was basically an embedded Democratic congressman. No one ran against him for, I think, 4 terms or something.
Yeah, he'd been there for, I think, over 20 years, and had not lived in the F seat ever.
No.
But was just a product of factional Democrat politics where he'd done the numbers and got his fiefdom and believed he owned the seat. And it was great to see this insurgency of people who actually lived in the area saying, well, no, we actually want someone who looks like us, sounds like us, is one of us to represent us. And that was just fighting inside the Democratic Party before they even got to dealing with Republicans.
Yeah. And so when the filmmaker Rachel Lear started making this documentary, she had no idea what she was really coming across with AOC.
Oh, she was so lucky to get all this early footage of AOC.
Absolutely.
Long before she was a household name. Yeah.
And in researching this, actually, you'd be interested to know this. Lears, as a documentary filmmaker, decided to stay fiercely editorially independent from her subjects. The entire film was funded by not-for-profit organisations because she didn't want any aspersions that she was being political in any way. She, even though it is about Democratic candidates, she didn't want it to be about like the cult of personality. She wanted it to be about the platforms they were running on.
Which is funny because she ended up with a cult of personality.
Well, the problem is she ends up with the cult of personality with AOC, but I think she does actually do a very good job of showing why AOC ran. She shows what she was trying to do and what she is trying to do as a politician very well. And it's just a little bit disappointing, I think. I mean, the thing is that I'm in two minds about it, because the other candidates, they're all given equal coverage. They are.
Yeah.
But AOC just obliterates them all with her presence and charisma.
and story, because she ended up being more successful. You know, and you could easily have cut the rest and just pulled more of the AOC off the cutting room floor and just given us more AOC. So I admire that they stuck to their guns and said, yeah, the AOC story is important, but these other women's stories are also really important.
Yeah.
While I would have liked to have seen more AOC, I'm not going to knock the show for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, what she was trying to do as a filmmaker was she found candidates. She basically was trying to demonstrate, because she was very disillusioned after Trump, this filmmaker, and she wanted to make a film about the importance of people raising their voice.
Well, there is a young Democrat leadership forum that all of these, sorry, not young, but there is a forum trying to get more representative people into being Democratic representatives. And they touch on that there is this group, which is obviously quite well organised.
It is, and actually I forgot the name of it, but they were associated. She's not part of that group, but she went to that group to find these candidates.
Yeah, show me some people who've got some talent. Yeah.
Yeah, and she wanted to show people that were actually trying to get into politics based on specific platforms, and that's what she does with all of them, and that's why they're all quite interesting. But I mean, I have to say the cult of AOC kind of has been lost on me a little in Australia, because I don't see her in the news as frequently. Obviously know who she is, but I mean, watching this, she's the real deal. I don't think who knows where she'll go, but she is the real deal. She's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I follow US politics a little more closely than you. That the thing about AOC is the way that she drives the Fox News establishment around the twist to the point of beyond insanity.
Yeah.
Which is great, because they just look stupid and terrible the way they keep harping on and on and on about a reasonable, well-spoken, well-presented young woman who's saying sensible things, and the fact that drives them into these paroxysms of rage tells you so much about them. And I really appreciated watching this, getting that background look at AOC. I knew the story, but hearing the story is different to seeing the person in the setting.
And this is why, they were so lucky, because, everyone does know the story that she was this bartender.
But they've got her tending bar.
They've got her tending bar. They've got her hauling garbage into a lift. And that is not set up. They did not have any idea
that she was
who
going
they
to be a
were
superstar.
filming.
Yeah.
And it's quite amazing to see that. That's not a fake story where she's come from. That is not exaggerated. That is really who she is.
But also then you get this disgusting thing where people in Republican politics start sneering, say, oh, they worked in a bar. And it's like, sorry, isn't that meant to be the American dream?
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that meant to be the Democratic dream, that people who don't come from super wealthy families can contribute? Are you telling us that dream you've been selling us is a lie? And this, does a really good job of keeping the dream alive, I guess.
One thing that I was perhaps somewhat disappointed with, and having actually now read a little bit more about how the film was made, I kind of understand it, but there comes a point when I was watching it, especially with the AOC campaign, where I'm like, so she obviously starts getting some momentum where she's really looking like she might win this. And they, she's standing in the street and she sees an image of her on a side of a bus going past. And I'm like, who is paying for this woman's campaign? Where is she getting this money from? And that is not explained. And I found that somewhat frustrating. Whereas I think the other three candidates were a little bit more, and they remained a little more kind of grassroots. So you could kind of... But AOC's campaign turns into quite a big, well-financed campaign. And that's not explained. But apparently what happened in the film was, because they agreed to, participate in this documentary, but then didn't quite know the success. And the filmmaker said that she reached a point in the film where she was no longer able to go and speak directly to the candidates. She had to do everything through their media people. And she herself became a kind of participant in the media machine and was not having that one-on-one engagement with the candidates like she would have been when she was filming AOC getting trash into the elevator. So I guess there becomes like some secrets that the documentary filmmakers just didn't have access to.
Oh, and once the campaign actually looks like it's going to succeed and gets beyond a certain point, then, yeah, there are more people in the campaign team and they're saying, what's this camera doing here?
Yeah.
Is that microphone live?
Yeah.
Turn that stuff off. Get out of the room.
And apparently she refused to share the footage with any of the candidates. She's like, no, this is my footage.
Yep.
And that kind of, I guess, probably would have created they would have started to not have it wouldn't have benefited them as much immediately.
You've just got to be able to have conversations that aren't going to be public.
Yeah.
In any of these campaigns, particularly if it looks like you're going to win.
Yeah.
Or a good, decent chance of winning.
So that was somewhat disappointing, but I don't think there's anything that could be done, and I don't think they would have got such an objective film if they had have been embedded as part of the team. Her independence is actually what makes this film.
Yeah, and she was
good.
trying to cover multiple subjects separated by thousands of miles in the same time span. So there are limits to what can be done.
And apparently ridiculously low budget. Like she DP'd it, edited it, directed it. I mean, she's crazy. All the roles she did. She must have just exhausted 6 months of her life doing this thing.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there was another person co-edited, I think, but she did a lot of roles on the film, which is unusual. Yeah, I thought this was, I mean, if you didn't have AOC, I think it would have been an interesting, but perhaps not as rewarding look into American politics.
Let's not kid ourselves. Here in Australia, if it wasn't for the AOC factor, we almost certainly would not have watched this film.
Probably not. I mean, I perhaps might have, because I was certainly interested in seeing a film about female politicians.
Yeah, I just don't believe it would have come up in your feed.
Yeah, and maybe I wouldn't have watched it, you're right, but I'm not going to dismiss it entirely.
No, I wouldn't, but it's got AOC, but it's also got a lot of other amazing women trying to do very hard things and making a pretty good fist of it, even the ones who don't succeed.
Yeah.
Sorry,
there you go.
Don't know what I was going to say now.
I thought there were some little bit cheesy moments, especially towards the end, where AOC was very, I think, self-aware of her presence. Like when there's a scene with her out the front of the White House after she gets in, and it's a little cheesy, I think. I felt then like I was being campaigned at.
Yeah,
it didn't feel as genuine as the earlier moments. I mean, when those early moments where she's just going around to town halls and there's like 10 people there. I mean, that is an insight into how she got to where she was. She just did the hard yards to get that nomination.
I think she had, in Bronx Democrat politics, a lot of people who were really sick of an absentee landlord running them, and they were looking for a star.
Yeah, but I mean, you still got to go out there and you got to speak to people, and she clearly did that.
That's not criticism of her in any way. And they do show that there were people who had been waiting a long time for someone like AOC to help.
I mean, I think still AOC would have been a gamble for a lot of people in those constituents. I mean, she's 28 years old. It's very young. Had no experience, no political experience. I think a lot of people would have been like, I need to go down and talk to this person before I'm going to vote for her.
Yeah. I suspect she'd been pretty active in branch politics for some years before she got to become this new superstar. But anyway, so I'm going to give this 4 stars.
I'm going to give it 4 stars too.
And what's it called again for everyone who's
Knock Down the House.
Knock Down the House.
On
Netflix. Well worth watching though. So what's next?
American Crime Story, The Assassination of Gianni Versace.
Shortly before 9 a.m., fashion designer Gianni Versace was shot on the steps of his villa.
Pronounced Versace. Singer? That's Liberace.
He was a creator. He was a genius. Everything you see around us, this house, this company, it was his life. I will not allow that man, that nobody, to kill my brother twice.
Now, this is going to be a Sheridan-only review.
Solo review.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start making my own songs, I think.
Excellent. You should record them and we can insert them in little cards.
So, this is created by Ryan Murphy, and some people may have seen American Crime Story, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, which was released, I think, on Netflix probably about a year ago. I don't think any longer. I don't think we reviewed it on the show, but if you saw that, you probably...
That's the one that really got a sense of where the Kardashians came from, wasn't it?
Yeah, so David Schwimmer plays the Kardashian dad, who I can't remember what his name is, who was O.J. Simpson's lawyer. But if you saw that, I think you know what you're going to get with this, and I feel like this needs to have 2 ratings. One for people that like true crime, and then just one for, like, everyday, like, cinematic kind of worthiness.
Sure, you do that.
Well, I'm not going to, but I feel like it should.
Okay, well, just keep going. Tell us what we got.
John, I don't think you seem as into this as me. You're just sitting there not being able to talk and you don't like it. You know you're able to ask questions.
I do, but you need to say something before I can ask a question.
Anyway, so it's about the assassination of Gianni Versace, but I think the title is a little bit misleading because it's actually kind of 2 stories. So it's about his killer, Andrew Cunanan. So I'm not sure if you know this, but Versace was killed by a serial killer.
No, I did not know that.
Yes. Now, he's a bit of an unusual serial killer in that what he did was he killed one person and then basically went on a spree. So he's probably more of a spree killer, but the length of time that he killed over is probably a little bit longer than you would usually have for a spree killer.
So he was sort of a crossover from the serial killer to the killing spree era. He was the bridge.
Well, he murdered for a little bit too long to be a traditional spree killer, because usually a spree killer kills like over a
day or so.
Or a few days, you know, not very long, but he, I think, was on the run for quite a while, like months kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean, he's definitely, once he did that first kill, he was like, well, I'm stuffed. I'm not going to get away with this. And he basically went on the run and killed a lot of people on the way. There's a bit of an undertone that maybe the reason he was allowed to stay, or why he wasn't caught so quickly, was people were a little bit dismissive of the him being homosexual and his victims being homosexual. Like there's a bit of that undertone that it wasn't really believed that these people were victims of a serial killer, that they were somehow involved in kind of rough sex, and that was why it happened, and that does come out a bit.
Sure.
So he's played by Darren Criss, who was from Glee, so obviously a very different role.
It is funny watching the Glee kids step into their adulthood in drama, isn't it?
So that's one story, and I think is what makes the show probably so interesting if you're a true crime fan. And then the other story is about Versace, who's played really amazingly by Edgar Ramirez. In fact, I have to say, they just look exactly alike. The resemblance is uncanny. And Donatella Versace is played by Penelope Cruz, again, fantastically. And I think basically because, you know, like, she just gets that look that Donatella's got. And, I mean, Donatella is portrayed as a loving sister, but ruthless in the protection of the family and the family name. And some really sort of untoward things happen after Versace dies with his partner, long-term partner, they were together for over a decade, Antonio D'Amico, who's played by Ricky Martin.
Yeah, right.
And I actually did a really, really good review.
That's a very high-profile, wealthy person to get into something like this.
Well, not known as being an actor either.
Yeah. But Ricky Martin's got a lot of money. It's not like he's doing this because he needs the cash. But,
no, he's not. But I read a really good review by Lucy Morgan in The Guardian, and that kind of sums the show up for me. So it opens. Versace was famously shot on the steps of his Florida villa. Very public frontage of this house, that goes on a very touristy public boardwalk. He came outside, I think, to get his mail or something innocuous like that. And Cunanan just basically was waiting there for him to come out, and he shoots him. And he bleeds out on the steps of the front of his house. And at the time, there was a lot of criticism of tourists walk past and were taking photos of his dead body, which is kind of funny to think about that, because given smartphones today, everyone would be doing that. Anyway, so that's how it opens. And Lucy Morgan said in her review, when it opens and he's shot, you don't sort of think, oh, isn't this tragic? The evil of man, isn't it horrible, this wasted life? Because his lover, played by Ricky Martin, discovers him, and she's like, you actually think to yourself, oh, that's Ricky Martin in teeny weeny shorts. Isn't he aging well? And that kind of, to me, sums this show up. It's like, it's kind of fun. Like, not fun, but it's cheesy and kind of over the top, and it's not...
I'm glad you've brought a better reviewer's review to this party.
It's really hard doing a review on your own. Anyway, so to me that kind of does sum it up, and that's a bit like People versus O.J. Simpson. It is actually kind of like reading a tabloid magazine. I'm not sure how much of it's true. Donatella Versace says it's a complete fiction. Don't think that's probably true, but it's somewhere not quite.
Look, in my experience of dealing with wealthy, powerful people, not Donatella Versace wealthy, powerful very often, but every now and then, one thing, if you try and tell the story of what happened, they will dismiss it and they will latch on something like, well, you said this happened at 2:30, but it happened at 2:35, so everything you say is to be discounted because they don't like the message. She might be correct and everything in this is wrong, but you can't make that judgment based on her saying it.
Yeah, I agree. But, it does feel a bit tabloidy. And you do seem to be a little bit more focused on Ricky Martin in his short shorts than you are on the fact that someone's just been murdered. And I think that was a very astute observation by a reviewer that's much better than me. So anyway, I think this actually for regular film goers is a 3-star, but for true crime fans, 4-star.
Right. Only 1 extra star.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, if you like stories about murder, this is a 4. Otherwise, it's just okay.
Well, murder and celebrity, really.
Who doesn't like murder and celebrity?
Well, lots of people.
I don't think so. Anyway.
I'm sure there's people out there that are reading Derrida and thinking that I'm a very vacuous person.
No one's actually reading Derrida in 2019. Unless they have to for school or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of uni students out there that are still forced to study postmodernism.
Yeah. Sure. Are we going to do one more, or is this us done?
That's it.
Is it?
Yeah, we did 3 reviews and a bonus.
And a bonus. All right. Just one moment. So we have mail.
Oh my God!
If you want to send us mail, you send it to gmtrpodcast@gmail.com.
Just so people know,
give me the remote.
Whenever we get mail, John doesn't tell me about it until right on the show.
Yeah, I do. You just don't listen to me.
Well, you don't read it to me.
Well, you didn't ask me to read it to you. Anyway, so Sheridan's hearing this email for the first time.
So anyway, I'm just saying my reactions are genuine.
Yes. So to get your emails into a podcast, email gmtrpodcast@gmail.com. From our friend Cornelius, who has sent us correspondence in the past. Hey, some silly comments. GOT, yes, the battle sequences were great, but OFFS in caps.
What's that mean? Yep, I know what that means.
You got that? Okay. Can they at least had people use any form of tactics? Arg. So annoying that they are so stupid clueless. A lot of the annoyances of the last season is that it felt rushed, which we agree with and noted. The previous seasons took some time with telling the story. This season dodged a lot of that and gave us the dot points. A few more episodes would have served the entire series for the better. Now, suggestion. I would like to see what you think of the film Prospect on Netflix. We will get on to Prospect Cornelius. In terms of tactics and realistic tactics...
Well, there was that one scene that's pretty famous where they're on the... I don't know, what do you call those, like, indentations in the walls of...
Crenellations.
Mm-hmm. And they put the dragon glass on the high bit and not on the low bit where they would all be climbing through. That was, like, really dumb.
Yes. And I shared a meme to that effect. I would say that often... because I do move in some martial arts circles.
Sorry. On the internet?
No.
At sword fighting school.
At sword fighting school?
That you've been to for half a year.
No, I did a year and a half.
Alright, anyway. I don't think sword fighting is a martial art.
It is a martial art.
God, I'm going to be getting another letter from Cornelius about this.
You will definitely be getting a letter from Cornelius about this. The point is that movie producers know all about what accurate military tactics are, and they say they don't look very good on film.
Well, for example, they should have been sending that dragon out really early and just killing people. They sent out, like, the men. They're much more valuable. Or vulnerable, I should say, because they're not more valuable than the dragon.
Yeah, you're talking about the Battle of Winterfell in particular now.
Yeah.
Yes. Sure, but they were hoping to catch the Night King with the Dragonfly, which is why they were holding off. I'm not going to try and rationalise a fantasy show. It's got dragons in it. They're not real.
But, like, you wouldn't send infantry out before tanks.
Yeah, you would.
Why? That's stupid.
Because you're looking for the anti-tank weapons.
You wouldn't send infantry out before plane bombers.
It would depend.
Unusual, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but also, as I noted in an article I wrote, yes, the Dothraki...
Did you just cite yourself?
Yeah. The Dothraki were used poorly, but you can find not a million... You can find several hundred instances in history where light cavalry have been used poorly. It happens a lot. It would also have
seemed to me to be pretty obvious that the dead were going to form a pile over that trench.
Yes.
Like, that was pretty easy to guess.
Yeah, I mean, but the whole tactic was to try and draw the Night King out and then assassinate him, which they succeeded in. So, hooray for heroes. And it also turned out that the dead weren't really killing anyone. They were just sort of climbing all over them, and everyone who played dead was able to get up later.
It was really, yeah.
But I would say that, I mean, things like, tactics, I mean, like, I was very critical in this podcast of Heartbreak Ridge, because all the soldiers bunched together shoulder to shoulder. But that's just fitting everyone in shot when you're trying to make a movie. And accurate spacings just mean everyone's standing, a long way apart from each other in a field, which doesn't look very good on camera. It's only once in a very long time that the winged hussars all sweep down the hillside and smash the Turks. Anyway, but your point is taken, Cornelius, and thank you for your correspondence. Anyone else who wants to get in touch, we've read out the email a few times now, and of course we are available as comments on the GMTR podcast webpage and Facebook and Twitter, so do please send your feedback through.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. See you all next week. We've got lots of exciting content lined up for next week.
Chernobyl.
And Good Omens.
I didn't watch that.
Yeah, but we're going to get a guest in to ring for Sheridan because Sheridan's crap and the guest is better.
I think we should cut all this off at the end.
Good night.
Good night.